Welcome into this Go Vols 24/7 No-Huddle. It is Monday of UAB week, although it is really still just 48 hours since Tennessee's overtime loss to Georgia. That was obviously a lot of the discussion today among players and hearing from Josh Heupel. I'm Patrick Brown here with Ryan Callahan to catch you guys up on what we heard and saw on campus today. And listening to Josh Heupel, probably the biggest takeaway, Ryan, was injury updates. Heupel talked kind of openly about a few guys, in particular David Sanders.
Maybe he feels bad for us that we won't get the SEC mandated injury updates this week on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But yeah, talked a lot about David Sanders' situation. He obviously hasn't played in Tennessee's first 3 games. Had suffered the injury just 3 days before the season opener. Didn't sound like a long-term thing at the time, and now he's been out these first 3 games, and it's not really clear when he's going to be back. And that was sort of the interesting thing hearing Josh Heupel talk about it. Said it's a unique injury, and made it clear that the trainers are making that decision, that it's not up to Josh Heupel and Tennessee's coaches on when he returns, and they're sort of just waiting to see when it's going to be better. Said it's the kind of situation where he could wake up one day and it's just he's suddenly good to go. So that obviously raises a lot of questions about exactly what he is dealing with, but it's an interesting situation nonetheless. Tennessee's had to adapt to it on the offensive line. They've done a good job, but it's obviously a tough situation for a guy who was the star of Tennessee's 2025 signing class to not be out there and not know exactly when he's going to make his Tennessee debut.
Yeah, Josh Heupel also talked about Jermod McCoy, the All-SEC cornerback, still coming back from his ACL injury. Said that it's just now kind of about getting him ready to be on the field. He said McCoy wants to get back on the field and has done a good job in his rehab and is back on the field doing some stuff. But it's just kind of those last few hurdles. He also said Jackson Moy, the defensive tackle, is day-to-day, I believe, and said that David Hobbs still working his way back from an injury as well. Notable that Hobbs was in a boot and using a crutch to get around in pregame before the ETSU game. Didn't have either of those apparatuses before the game against Georgia, so he is still coming back and working his way back. We'll see if Mississippi State, probably a stretch for Hobbs.
Yeah.
That'll be a 4:15 SEC Network game, by the way. The SEC announced that earlier today. But the other big takeaway or talking point today, Ryan, was just turning the page, right? After the loss, it was obviously pretty brutal. Some guys were really emotional on the field in the locker room after the game on Saturday, after the manner of which Tennessee lost. The coaches come in on Sunday and review it. The players are back in here doing treatment and stuff, but Monday is when they really kind of come together and go over the film and sort of reset, and that's what they did today. And Heupel said it's important to move forward. Georgia game's in the rear view. You got to look out the windshield. Miles Kitzman brought up how Georgia lost early last season to Alabama, still went on to win the SEC title. So what did you make of some of that talk today, Ryan?
Yeah, I think everyone on this team knows. I mean, let's face it, they were a college football playoff team last year. They lost to Arkansas, and things weren't looking too great after that game. And Tennessee bounced back and was fine the rest of the way, and Georgia was the only team that beat them the rest of the regular season. So I think they know it's just a different mindset these days. Back in the 4-team playoff era, one loss, it was a devastating thing for a team that had those kinds of expectations. For a team like this, especially one that went toe-to-toe with a team that might be the best team in the SEC right now. We'll see how the rest of the season goes for Georgia, but to have had a chance to win that game, I think there's still more reasons for optimism than pessimism at this point. And Tennessee knows it's a long season, and this is where you need your leadership to remind the young guys of that. They've got a lot of young guys playing. Heard a lot about throughout the entire offseason and the first few weeks of the season. Young guys don't have time to be young, but they still have some veteran leadership on this team. They need Joey Aguilar, Miles Kitzelman, some of those guys to keep this team kind of on track, and they need to show some maturity in bouncing back Saturday against UAB with kind of a workmanlike effort in a game that, let's face it, they're expected to win pretty easily, but you need to get what you can out of this game and continue to move forward knowing that all your goals are still out in front of you for the most part.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I took away from Heupel is just that when they're going over a game like this, a game like Georgia, it was, okay, what could we have done differently? Georgia's going to make plays. Other teams are going to make plays sometimes, and we certainly saw that. Georgia made some plays that Tennessee was in good position. I think the tying touchdown was one where, I've seen the call is what it was. Ty Redmond's in pretty good shape, pretty good position, but Georgia just makes a play. That happens, and certainly that's got to be tougher for the players to relive it, because you see one little thing here, one little thing there, and it really kind of brings back all the frustration. So Heupel talked about some of the things that they need to do better, and I think one thing is they've got to get some better depth on defense. I mean, you're talking about guys like Bryson East and Dominic Bailey playing 65, 66 snaps, and that takes a toll in a game. Now, those guys are warriors. Let's give them credit for that, but they need some guys to come on at defensive tackle. I think most of the DBs, we saw very little, rotation there. So this is a game where you need to sort of press the urgency button with some of these younger guys.
Yeah, I mean, Ty Redmond played 95 snaps, and Colton Hove's out there basically the whole game. You don't have much depth to speak of, at least reliable depth yet, at the cornerback position with Ricky Gibson and Jermod McCoy out. So regardless of when McCoy might be back, you need to make the most of that situation while you need the additional depth. You need someone to step forward, and they've not had someone do that yet. UAB, obviously a game where you should be able to clear out the bench a little bit and get some young guys in there more. So can Trey Poteet or Timothy Merritt or someone else in the secondary give you some help at one of those positions? That would be big for Tennessee. But yeah, it's not an ideal situation, especially on the defensive line. I thought that really showed up in Saturday's game. This is a week where you need to continue to bring along the Marion Dyes, the Ethan Utleys, and continue to get them ready, because you're probably going to need them the rest of the way, and you're going to need them at least in some capacity in some of these big games, as we saw Saturday against Georgia.
Yeah, I think Nathan Robinson, Jamal Wallace, Ethan Utley, I think they combined for one tackle. Played a handful of snaps, but need to make a bigger impact on the game, so they'll get a chance to do that this week. For Ryan Callahan, I am Patrick Brown with Disco Vols 24/7 No Huddle.